There's this unwritten rule in SaaS. Only 5% of your target market is ready to buy your product right now. The other 95% are considering your product or maybe just becoming aware of your product. And down the line, they will buy. But here's the thing. Depending on your go-to-market strategy, they may end up buying from you or your competitor, whoever is top of mind for them at the moment where they're ready to buy. This is both a challenge and an opportunity. It's a challenge because those outbound emails you're sending out or that ad that you're running or that lead that you got, 95% of them are not ready to buy right now. It's an opportunity because if you actually revamp your go-to-market strategy the right way, when they are ready to buy, they will buy from you. And the 5% that are ready to buy right now, they will also buy from you. In this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know on how to revamp your go-to-market strategy so you can turn this 95/5% rule, this rule that no one can escape, into an advantage for your SaaS business. And when you implement these 3 principles, you will be able to accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS Go-To-Market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's so awesome to see you over here. Think about any major software purchase that you've done. Did you look at the product and discover it and then buy right away? Or did you kind of think about it? Did you do a little bit of research? Did you maybe come back to it? Did you say, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I need it right now. And then all of a sudden, one random moment, you're like, oh my God, I need this thing. And then you decided to buy. When you bought that product, did you consider the other competitors? Did you know that there were competitors? Did you research it? Did you look at the reviews? This is the buyer journey. And this is where the 95% rule versus the 5% rule comes into play. If this is your target market right here, 95% of them are not ready to buy or are unaware that they even need to solve this problem. 5% are ready to buy. And so this is the opportunity. This is an opportunity that I had when I was running Taudab. I knew that as we were doing outbound, as we were doing ads, as we were doing content, only 5% would be ready to buy. The other 95% would buy eventually as they considered the purchase. And so we crafted our go-to-market strategy in a way that even though we won 20 to 30% of the opportunities that we had, we knew that the rest would eventually come back. And they did. And it wasn't by accident. It was because we knew about the 95/5 rule and we turned it to our advantage. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know to actually turn this 95/5 rule to your advantage so you can revamp your go-to-market strategy and accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. If you're excited to dig into principle number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that, and let's dig right into it. The first thing you need to understand is there's a spectrum. This is your target market, and at any given moment, you essentially have 5% of buyers who are ready to buy right now. The rest are 95% of buyers that are considering, becoming leads, looking at different options, and maybe kind of thinking like, this is not an urgent and important problem I need to solve for right now. And all of a sudden, at some point, it becomes where they're part of that 5% that needs to buy right now. So principle number 1 that you need to do for your go-to-market strategy is to look at your ICP. Your ICP, if you've been following this channel, is your ideal customer profile. And when you look at your ideal customer profile, depending on how much revenue you have, depending on what stage you're in, depending on how much growth you're looking to drive, depending on how much runway you have, depending on what stage you're in, you want to decide how broad you want to make your ICP. Let's just take an example. If you have $2 left in your account and you're going to die next week, you need to make sure your entire ideal customer profile is focused on this 5% because they're the most ready to buy. And we would have to craft your ideal customer profile specifically around what are the type of customers that are ready to buy right now? What attributes do they have? What triggers do they have? And there's a 29-point analysis that I do with an ideal customer profile when I work with founders like you to really figure out where you want to be focusing. Now, let's just say you're like, TK, we've got some money in the bank, we're funded, or we're profitable, and we really want to grow. And so what we want to do is not just target the 5%, we also want to target this part of this 95% and say, let's start educating them and let's really pull them in which case your ideal customer profile can start to expand a little bit and say, okay, let me just pull a little bit in this direction, knowing that maybe I'm not going to go completely for the unaware. I'm going to go with the people that are in consideration already, right? They're already considering that there's something needed over here. Now, let's just say you're further along and you're like, look, we are at scale. There's a huge market. There's a lot of competition. In which case you can look at this ideal customer profile and say, you know what? Maybe the number one competitor in the space has this locked down. So in order to compete and differentiate, maybe we need to go to the unaware and convince them. And that's our ideal customer profile. You can see where, depending on the stage you're in, when you know this 95-5 rule, you can actually define your ideal, let's write this out, customer profile in different ways based on the stage you're in and what your strategy is going to be. This is why ICPs are so powerful. When you visualize it in this way, there's so many different entry points you can have into the market, into the buyer journey, into how you actually target these people, depending on what your strategy is for your go-to-market and depending on what the competitive dynamics are. So principle number one in your go-to-market strategy as you're trying to embrace this 95-5 rule is to really figure out what part of the market, where in the buyer journey you really want to be attracting leads or doing outbound or running ads on, because that will really help you be a lot more efficient. Now, let's flip this for a second. Let's just for a second say you don't have an ideal customer profile, or you kind of faked it. You don't really have one. You haven't really done the work and you haven't really filled out a proper ideal customer profile. In that kind of scenario, it's very possible that you're doing outbound or you're doing content or you're running ads, but you're trying to target this entire spectrum and you're all over the place. You may be generating a bunch of leads, or even worse, you're generating a bunch of leads that are unaware versus focusing on who's ready to buy. And this is the power of principle number one. And when every single company I've worked with, every single company that I coach, I always get them to think about the ideal customer profile and really dig into where in the buyer journey and what segment of the market are we really going to focus on that we can differentiate on, that we can actually communicate our value, and that we can actually get to revenue at a reasonable amount of time. Because let's be real. Let's just say you're targeting this extreme end of the market. Well, it may take a year or 10 years for them to reach a point where they become this 5% of the market. And so it becomes really important for you to understand where you're going to be targeting. That's principle number one. Now, once you've fleshed out your ideal customer profile and you start to go out there, you still have this problem. You have this problem where maybe there's not squarely in this 5%. You can't always just go to LinkedIn or Facebook and say, here, I'm going to give you a bunch of money. Please give me the 5% of the market that's ready to buy. There are some ways to do this through the ICP, and that's why it's deep work. But even when you do that, you're going to get a mix of people. You're going to get a mix of people that are in the 5%. You're going to get a mix of people that are maybe a smidge before they're completely ready to buy, but further along. Or you may get people that are completely unaware. This is where principle number two comes in, because as you engage into the market, your job is to drive up the urgency around why your product is needed. Because on its own, left to their own devices, you're gonna just hope and pray that they are getting into the 5% at some point. And this is where I think marketing really shines. I am a big practitioner of education marketing, meaning I try to empower the people that I serve. I try to teach them about the problem that I'm solving. And then I offer a solution. And that way you're very authentic in how you are actually guiding your buyers. Principle number two in your go-to-market strategy is your manifesto. This is the core strategic narrative that you have. This is your value proposition. This is your positioning in the market. This is when you write an ad or you do an outbound email or you write a piece of content, any sort of go-to-market activity that you're doing, this is the strategy behind exactly what you're writing. And this is your opportunity. If you know that only 5% are ready to buy and the other 95% aren't, your opportunity is to craft your manifesto in a way where there's a force to get them into the 5%. Your opportunity is to craft your manifesto in a way where when they consume your content, when they see your ad, when they see your outbound emails, when they look at your value prop, when they look at your website, your go-to-market strategy is designed to push them in a good way to actually become part of this 5%. And that's the opportunity of your manifesto. A lot of times people say, hey, can you just take a look at my 5-slide manifesto for me? And I'm like, I can't, because it's so complex. There's so much nuance that goes into what's the ICP, what are the competitive dynamics, and how do we craft the manifesto in such a way where it's persuasive enough to educate them, make them aware of the problem, and push them into this bucket of 5% of people or towards that direction where they're becoming ready to buy. And so principle number two is for you to revisit your messaging. To be clear, a manifesto breaks down into your narrative. It goes into your value prop. and it goes into your messaging. And all of these pieces actually educate the buyer and helps them understand, do I need this? Do I need this now? Do I go with these guys versus these other guys? So all of this is designed to help them go from this unaware stage to the ready to buy stage. That's why we do all this work, to educate them on why they need our solution. And at the end of the day, I only focus on B2B software. Very few B2B software is really nice to have that makes it out in the market. Most B2B software exists for a reason. If you're earning revenues, it means that majority of your ideal customers must have it. So I always look at it in a way of, it's a sense of duty for me to educate them on why they need this. That's why we created this, and that's what this whole process is about. Once you have your ICP and your manifesto, you're essentially targeting in the right way. And then when you're targeting, you're actually doing the right go-to-market activities so that when they do encounter you, you are educating them towards this ready to buy category. You're actually moving these people along. You're not just assuming that they're ready to buy. Now there's a third principle that brings it all together, and I'm going to dig into why. But before I do that, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? Are you starting to see the power of this 95-5 rule? This is a rule where you can either be victimized by it, like, oh, woe is I, they're not ready to buy, what are we gonna do? Or you can use it to your advantage. You can actually say, hey, this is a very important piece of software that we have. It's a solution you need, it's a real problem that exists, and we're gonna educate you on why you need to be using this. That's the power in this. And that's when you actually revamp your go-to-market strategy, knowing the 95-5 rule, you turn it from an obstacle, a challenge, to an advantage. And this third principle is going to explain how it really comes together. But if you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also, if you're in this stage where you're revamping your go-to-market strategy, you're getting intentional about what's the segment of the market we're going after, how do we educate them, how do we differentiate ourselves from the competitors, how do we actually collapse the time it takes to close a deal? This is exactly what I do inside of my SaaS Go-To-Market Coaching Program. Inside of this program, I work with you one-on-one to actually revamp your go-to-market strategy. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it below. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode, but let's go to principle number 3. This is where it all comes together. So principle number 3 of a go-to-market strategy is to run a Broadway show. A Broadway show is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you run every single week. Either it's you doing it if you're founder-led, or your marketing team and your sales team, depending on the stage that you're in. That's a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you run that's bringing your manifesto to your ICP. It's as simple as that. Now, this is where the power of a Broadway show is. Remember, 5% are ready to buy right now, okay? So what that means is 95% are not ready to buy. Now, here's the catch. Let's just say you send one outbound email and you send it to your ideal customers, but they're not ready to buy. They're part of the 95%. They look at the email, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should get something like that. Cool. And they go to the next thing. 6 months later, they're like, you know, I really need this thing. Let me go figure out what it is. And let me go figure out what I'm gonna buy. If you don't consistently go after this ICP with a consistent message like your manifesto, and you don't consistently nurture them and build that relationship with them, even though they're not ready to buy right now, chances are, even though you were the first to get to them, 6 months later, they're gonna buy from your competitor. So this is where the power really comes in. This is where you run a Broadway show where you consistently generate quality pipeline. And even if they're not ready to buy right now, you consistently educate them and nurture them so that when they are ready to buy, they're gonna buy from you versus your competitor. When that time comes, we're like, oh, you know what? I do need a CRM software, or I do need a marketing automation software, or I do need a finance software, or I do need that developer software, or I do need to solve this problem. First in mind for them is like, oh, it's these guys that have been emailing me and educating me. They're in my inbox. I see their ad. I'm connected with them. I got a cold email from them. I'm on their mailing list. I'm gonna go check them out. And that's where the Broadway show really shines, because not only does it activate the people that are in the 5% with a really compelling message right away, but for the people that are part of this 95%, there's a dual flanked strategy. On one hand, you're educating them in a way to move them to the 5%, and also you're consistently nurturing them and continuing to educate them so that when they're ready to buy, they're gonna buy from you versus your competitor. And that's the power of knowing the 95-5 rule and revamping your go-to-market strategy so you take it as your advantage. If you ignore the 95-5 rule, you will be educating the market so that your customers, your future customers, end up buying from your competitors. So it's in your advantage to turn the 95-5 rule, which is an obstacle for many marketers, average marketers, and turn into an advantage if you follow these 3 steps. So to recap, number 1, figure out what your ideal customer profile is. What segment of the market are you going to go after, and be intentional about it. Figure out exactly what those characteristics are. When I work with founders on their ICP and I work with the marketing teams that they have, we get really detailed on the ICP, and that's why it's always so effective. We can always make tough choices on who do we focus on and who do we not. It's always tough to do when you do the work, but we make it step by step and easy to follow. The second is we then craft a narrative. This is your manifesto, so that when we're getting into the market, we can educate them and push them into the direction of becoming that 5% that's ready to buy. And lastly, we run a consistent set of sales and marketing activities called the Broadway show, so that as they're getting educated, as they're becoming more aware, as they're entering into that 5% of the market that's ready to buy, they're gonna buy from you versus your competitor. And that's what I had for you today. So now you know the 95-5 rule, and you know the 3 key principles that you absolutely need to implement to revamp your go-to-market strategy and take advantage of the 95-5 rule and rise above the competition. Now, what you may not know is, TK, how do I flesh out my ICP? How do I actually build a manifesto so that it's truly compelling, so that we're actually differentiating ourselves, we're educating them, and we're pushing them and creating that urgency and making it important so that they buy from us, and we collapse our sales cycles and our conversion process. You may be wondering, how do I run a Broadway show, and how to generate leads, and how to send an outbound email, but how do I really nurture them so that it's not annoying, but we're actually top of mind when they're ready to buy? This is exactly why I created my SaaS Go-To-Market Coaching Program. Inside of this coaching program, I work with you one-on-one to actually flesh out your ideal customer profile, then develop your manifesto, and then I teach you how to run a Broadway show step by step so that you can bring your manifesto to your ICP on a consistent basis. It is an incredible program. I've worked with so many founders inside of it, implementing these key principles. And we make it dead simple, easy to follow because we've done this so many times. So if you're in that stage where you want to revamp your go-to-market strategy and turn that 95-5 rule to your advantage, you want to flesh out your ICP, your manifesto, and run your Broadway show, then all you have to do is just go to tkkader.com/GTM. tkkader.com/GTM. Over there, you'll get all the details around my go-to-market program. You'll get all of the details. It's an incredible program. Now, what I know is the better the fit, the better the results, which is why, if it sounds like you want to do this with me, just fill out the little form and we'll book a call. We run the call to actually understand where you are in your business, what the opportunity is, what's holding you back, and if it's a fit. If it's a fit, then we're off to the races right away and we start working together. So just go to tkkader.com/GTM and you'll get all the details, and I'll also link to it below. Also, if you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And honestly, so do we. My team and I put a lot of love into these videos to bring you these actionable pieces of content that really help SaaS founders out there and SaaS leaders out there. If you have a fellow founder, if you have a fellow team member, if you have other SaaS leaders that you are in a Slack group with or a WhatsApp group with, please share this video with them. It just means the world to us. We want to help as many SaaS founders as possible. Also, I drop an episode like this every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon, where you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. Also, if you're watching to this point, thank you for being a subscriber. We're growing faster than ever. We're growing faster than ever because we work really hard at this, and clearly you're getting value. So if you're watching to this point, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to do this. I love doing this, and I really love serving you guys, and it's truly an honor and a privilege. If you are watching to this point, just put in the comments, put in dog in the comments, and that way I know that you're watching all the way to this point, so I can thank you myself. Lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the SaaS Go-To-Market Coaching Program. Take care, everybody.